joined us once again. We are in season 2 of TTYL or Not. And this year we're doing things a little bit differently. I'm getting folks on the street doing some good work. And I got my good friend, Shakira King, next to me. We're about to get into some real grassroots organizing, activism, so many things, educating,
yes.
So many things she does here in the city of Philadelphia, and we're just going to get into it. You are watching TTYL or Not. Welcome to Theology Talk You Like or Not. I am your creator, curator, investigator, sometime instigator, but definitely a liberator, Rev to say. And for a few moments of your sacred time in this sacred space, I invite you to tune in as we talk good, talk back, talk loud, talk smack, talk life and love, talk true, talk music, talk art, talk faith, hope, peace, joy, talk justice, talk God. Let's talk. Welcome, Shakira, to TTYL or Not. How you doing?
Hi, friend. I'm good, friend.
Wow, what a season we are in. We've been in. We just going to jump into the conversation like we always do here in TTYL or Not. Let me say, I am just so proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I am so proud of the work that you've been doing in a season where there has been financial hardship in the community, a season where Black and brown people, queer people, trans people continue to be slaughtered in the hands of police officers, in the hands of people who don't understand queerness or, our being. In the hands of people who are still afraid to face their own fear, and deal with it. And yet you have done something so special with two friends, Dom and Lexi, Dom and Lex, who are also good, dear friends of mine. Done something very special, and I want you to talk about that because I think I would say that was the thing that activated me to want to bring you to the seat and share what some millennials are doing out in the world to really sustain the community.
Yeah, so contrary to popular belief, we are not lazy and self-centered. I was sitting and thinking because my mother actually contracted coronavirus because she had to go to work. And she got it from a coworker who unfortunately passed away. And I was like, this was preventable. And I thought about all the conditions in which forced my mother to be in that situation, meaning like her being the primary caregiver of my brother, her being the caregiver to my grandmother and assisting her and them living in the house together. And it was the worst 10 days of my life because I could not be with my mom. And I was trying to figure out all of these ways in which I could support her. And after that was over, I was really angry, right? Because our local government here in Philadelphia has failed us immensely. Our state government has also failed us. Our federal government continues to fail us, not just in this moment, but since, November of 2016, it has failed us. And I was like, okay, so what do we do? So I literally tweeted and was like, yo, if I put together a fund for people to like pay their bills, y'all gonna donate? And all these people immediately were like, yep, we donate on a regular basis. What's your cash app? We gonna do this right now. So I literally texted Lex and Dom and was like, yo, like, let's do this. Let's divvy up the work in a way that's comfortable for everybody, right? So Dom did most of our email communications, which I'm so thankful for. Lex did the inputting of the spreadsheet for our database because I wanted to make sure that people knew that, like, we are accountable in this process, that we're not just taking this money and skedaddling off. But we are more than welcome to being accountable in this process. And I did all of the like retweeting and like, here's the Cash App, here's Here's where you can throw the money, you know, all that stuff, and paying people. And it worked really well because we got to, you know, socially distance and we didn't have to be together, but we also were able to, like, pay people's bills.
How many people did you, I'm sorry, in a timely manner, not to cut you off, how many people did you serve?
I haven't actually counted how many people, but I do have the amount of money that we collected and gave away. So we collected about close to $20,000, and we gave that away. We gave away $19,508 to be exact. That's a number I keep in my head just in case people try to come for me.
Don't come for her.
Don't do it.
She got people's.
I got it.
and I love the fact that immediately when you tweet that, you automatically found, let me get some accountability partner on board to not only, you know, it's one thing to like, I need some help with this, but that's integrity for me. Like saying, let me get some folks on board that can hold me accountable for the work that I really want to put out in the world. Yeah.
The funny thing is that it's modeled after the church, believe it or not. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you know,
I am churchy.
We know we getting into the church.
I'm very churchy. And it was modeled after trustee boards. Like, okay, like, here's this money. Here's how this money works. You know, here's how we count it. This is the accounting process. These are the people that oversee the cash. These are the people that oversee the credit card machine. These are the people that oversee online donations. How do we split this up? And I was like, this is a great way to do it. You know, and in keeping that document, we've ended it now because it was just like, it was very taxing. And it actually started to weigh on my spirit in a way that I was like, God, why are you letting us suffer like this? I was getting in a tight spot with God, actually. And I had to, like, step back a moment. But yeah, I was very happy to be able to do that work because, like, people shouldn't have to decide whether or not they're going to keep their lights on, keep their internet so their kids can finish school, or, like, eat. Yeah. Nobody should have to make those choices. Because all of these things are basic necessities. Water, heating, cooling, gas, electric, all of these things we need to be able to function in this very particular time. So it's ridiculous that people's bills are $700 to $1,000 just because, you know, they haven't been able to work. That's just 3 months worth of bills. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's as long as we've been locked up. And no, they aren't shutting people off. We've been locked up, locked in.
That's as long as we've been locked up.
That's as long as we've been locked up in this joint.
So let's get into the church. You know. Because when I met you a couple of years back, I mean, it's been a couple of years back now.
Time is filled with swift transition. Okay.
Isn't it, though? I had a professor that said, isn't it? When he wanted to emphasize something. But anyway, yeah, you claim your churchiness and you embrace your churchiness. But there was a time that you really weren't down with the church.
I wasn't with it.
And you wrestled with God, and we all go through our wrestle. If you don't mind sharing your journey and what drew you back into the church.
Yeah.
And what is your relationship with God these days?
Okay, all right. So let me just say that me and God are still wrestling, okay? Who was that wrestled with God in the Bible? Jacob, am I right?
Everybody.
Okay. No, I mean that physical tussle that happened for me, the physical embodiment of me wrestling with God, I would have to say happened after high school. And we moved from North Carolina to Philadelphia. By the way, I want to emphasize this. We had to move out of Philadelphia because the schools were closing. All right? Let's just be right here with that. My mother should have not had to uproot her children and her life because the education system was bad. Let's just leave that there. But I'm thankful that she did. We did have family and a huge support system, and I was able to experience high school in a way that not a lot of kids do. Although it was very racist because I lived in Goldsboro, North Carolina, which is this big. It has a military base on it, and it is Trumpapalooza, okay? Way before Trump was even a thing. Like, anyway. yeah, we came back, and I was young and feeling myself, and my grandmother went back to our church, the church that I grew up in, and she was like, "Come on!" And I went one Sunday, and everybody was happy to see me, and I was like, "Oh, this is not it." And I would like to say that part of it is because I got to attend Reverend Barber's church when I was in high school. His church is in Goldsboro, and my family went there, so I got to experience him and his teachings on another level that I was like, whoa, never heard it like that before.
Right.
But when I came back here, I was like, that's not it. And I remember having a cousin who was a preacher here in Philadelphia, very close to me, who I love this man dearly, said to me, "I don't know what happened to you. You used to love God so much," in a Facebook comment. And it was around like LGBTQ issues specifically. And I was like, okay, yeah, we're done. That's it. I'm good. And I was done in that moment because I didn't feel comfortable at home at my home church. And I didn't feel like I could hear God anymore. I felt like God was not listening to me. And I was also struggling with my sexuality at this point. And I'm also in the process of archiving my own queer history as a Black Philadelphian. I'm interviewing other Black Philadelphians, and I said this in an interview I did of myself recently. The truth is, I've been queer all my life, right? So I knew that I was queer at 5. Like, I remember specifically having feelings towards girls at 5. So, like, I had already been struggling with my queerness in my life, in my entire life. And like I said in the interview to myself that I'm currently recording for my own project, I was like, yeah, so all the guys I dated, I never really liked them, which is bad to say, but it was just like, there was something about men that never really did it for me. And as visceral and as evil as that comment was, I knew that was my turning point. That was my, like, okay, this person that I love, that knows that I love God, that knows that I have dedicated my gift, which is my voice, because I've sang my entire life in church, that I've given my body to choir after choir, that I've really dedicated my time to really honing my gift and giving it back to God in that way. This person thinks that I'm an abomination, so I might as well just go on. Somebody that I love thinks that I'm an abomination, so I might as well just go on head on and be that abomination. So that was my walk away from the church. And it happened at about 19 or 20, 28 now.
What brought you back to the church?
A dream. My aunt died. And she came to me in a dream at a very difficult time. And she was the thing that got me to go back. And in the dream, and I was like, I gotta have a place where I can be myself. Yes. I gotta have a place where I can, like, show up and be all of me, the loud, the crazy, the overthinker, the
changing the hair.
Yeah, my hair changes consistently. I gotta be able to go and show up and, not feel like I'm being ostracized. And oddly enough, I was working at Freedom School Camp, and Candace Simpson was our trainer. And me and Candace clicked immediately, and then I met Lex. Lex was also in that training with me. And me and Lex connected immediately. And then our other friend, Trey Daniel, who is now a youth pastor down in Atlanta, he and I clicked immediately, and it was just like, okay, there's all these churchy millennials, and they in here doing the work, and they were like reading these books that I was reading as an organizer. So Between the World, Trey that summer was reading Between the World and Me. He's really into Ta-Nehisi Coates, and Lex was reading, I can't remember what it was, but it had a purple cover, and they were reading this. We're all on this bus going to this training because we were going to Brooklyn at the time, and we're like reading, and I'm just like, yo, they're reading these books that I'm really interested in. Okay, I see y'all. And then we get up there, and Candace is like going in on like how we should be treating these young people with like care and intention, and how we can do it in this space and let them know that just because this camp isn't a church, it doesn't mean that they have to subscribe to this way of thinking, that this is a safe place and we are safe people and we are going to protect them. And I was like, yo, this is the exact kind of youth work I want to be doing.
Yes.
And I think I was working the camp maybe 3 weeks, and then I joined the church.
Yes.
And got really great friends with Jason, who's now at UVA, Reverend Jason Oliver Evans.
Hey, Jason.
Who is literally one of my best friends in the whole entire world. And Jason, I got to ask Jason all the hard questions, and he was not afraid to shy away.
He's such a brilliant mind.
He's so brilliant. All of y'all are brilliant.
I need you to come sit next to me. You know, you was one of the first I asked, by the way. So go ahead, make your schedule. We quarantining 3 feet here.
But yeah, so I was immediately surrounded by all of these wonderful, great millennial churchy folks who loved these old hymns that really carried us through, right? Because we felt the ancestral nature of them, right? And we recognized the ancestral nature of what the Black church is, right? Like, we don't, like, I feel like our particular group of friends doesn't shy away from that.
Of course.
And we also recognize that God is God and we are not. So there are some ways that we have to decenter ourselves from the work that we do, put God in the middle of it, and be able to do it, right? And trust that that when we center God, we're actually doing God's work.
Let me ask you, what is one of your favorite hymns? We about to get churchy.
Listen, so many. What have I been singing this week? There's a storm out on the ocean, and it's moving this away. You got to say this away. If your soul's not anchored in Jesus, you will surely drift away. What's the other one that I sang the other day? I'm free. Praise the Lord, I'm free. No longer bound. No more chains holding me. My soul is resting. Ain't that a blessing? Praise the Lord. Hallelujah, I'm free.
That's what's up. Yeah.
Those two have been in my spirit real heavy. Oh, and what's the other one? My aunt used to sing it as a lullaby to us for whatever reason. Walk in the light, beautiful light.
We singing hymns today.
The dewdrops of mercy shine bright, shine all around us by day and by night. Jesus, the light of the world. I love that song. I love it. And I still sing it to like all my nieces and nephews. Like when I was putting them to sleep, I continued the tradition.
You got me rocking. I miss church. Listen, I miss church. You know when I be in church, I'm be the first one standing up.
Listen, we be in there going in sometimes. I really do miss the millennial auntie row. The row of us that would sit together and cut up together, okay? In some of the best ways. So yeah, being in that space, and meeting you all and being connected, and Minister Sheena Rowe, okay? Also, gentle spirit. She will coax you,
Please call the roll, because all of the folks that she calling out.
She will coax you and calm you and bring you such peace. And, Reverend Jamie Eady, of course, the leader of our flock, Reverend Dr. Callahan, Reverend Sharice Tucker, all of these, and the fact that they were women leading, I was like, okay, and y'all don't have no crazy, ridiculous politics. Okay, I can get down with that. And the other thing that was really inspiring to me was that there were openly queer people serving, right? Like, y'all were in the pulpit on Sundays. I had never seen that, let alone I had a pastor who told women in the pulpit, like he was in the pulpit one Sunday for a Women's Day service and told them that don't be mistaken, the woman that was coming to bring us the word, she was a teacher, not a preacher. Like, extremely sexist. Like, had these people critiquing my body as a puberty-ridden preteen, telling me that my body was too curvaceous. Yeah, so, like, all of those things stuck with me, and I now realize that is harm, Right? And that there was harm done. And as a 14-year-old, I shouldn't have been policed in that way. But it also, I feel like part of the thing that God has asked me to do, and part of the thing that my ancestors are calling me to do, quite frankly, is to be with young people, which is why I love youth work, right? So all of the organizing activism that I've ever done has been youth-centered. Even the jobs I've had have been youth-centered in my adulthood, thank the Lord.
Yes, so you are indeed an activist and organizer, and I know your work, at least your passion, your desire, your purpose is to ground that around the population of youth.
Mm-hmm.
But you recently, again, organized Spirits Up,
mm-hmm.
and again during a time where there were the Black Lives Movement took another twist and turn in
mm-hmm.
our nation's history
mm-hmm.
of Black people being slain at the hands of police officers who are not being held accountable
mm-hmm.
for the slaying.
Mm-hmm.
And even in spite of COVID-19, people felt moved for justice and gathered in tight spaces to protest against the injustice.
Yeah.
And so you organize
Spirits Up.
Spirits Up.
So I did not organize it alone. It is not my brainchild. It is the brainchild of my beloved brother, Sudan Green, who is just an amazing young person, an amazing artist, but also like he is a yogi. Okay, he is all about moving his body in ways that relieve stress and tension. He's like a climber. He does those like that freehand climb thing. So he's just an amazing ball of energy and light and love and care. And there was a city council person who called the meeting, and our mentor, he was like, yo, I really want y'all in this room with me. So I went with him, got in the car, we went up there, we went up to this church that's in North Philly. And we get there, and it's all of these older Black folks in the room, and me and Sudan are the only millennial age people in the room. There may be two more. I'm like, okay, I am obviously the only queer person in the room. Okay, all right, whatever. There are none of the people who actually were on the ground those 2 days that the uprisings were happening. Only I had been out, who was out there, were in that room. So I'm like, okay, this is not, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this a chance. You know, we get told that there are going to be no police in the room, so we'll be able to have an honest conversation. Sheriff walks in the room. We're like, what the world happened? So immediately, my mentor brings up, like, yo, I asked, like, holding the people who put the meeting together accountable. Like, I asked y'all not to have no cops in this room. These young people have literally been terrorized by cops. I would not have brought them in this space if I would have known a police officer was going to be here. So I subsequently go off in a way that, according to the elders in the room, was unladylike, but who gives a daggone about that? I'm serious. We really got to get free of patriarchy, y'all, because it is, woo, that thing is not cute, okay? And it's literally killing Black women, so I need this to stop. And Sudan comes to my rescue, and he's like, yeah, you're not even listening to her. She's trying to tell you the pain she's experiencing at the hand of police, and you're not listening to her. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. All right, we family now. All right, then. Came to my rescue. Not even like I was in danger, but came and defended me in a way that I was like, okay, that he's really about it. And then a week later, he texts me. He gets in a group chat with me, and he's like, yeah, so I'm going to hold these week of protests. That are yoga-based protests, and we're going to allow Black people to come and, like, release their bodies, and we're going to hire Black yoga teachers and meditation leaders, and everything's going to be free. We're going to give them free yoga mats. They're going to be able to come and get whatever they need. So the first day was at the Municipal Services Building, and I remember it was a Sunday, and it was so hot. It was so hot, we did not think that people were going to come out, and it was packed that day. And the wonderful thing about Spirits Up is that, like, we had done all the research around, like, what's the risk level? Like, will people get sick? Like, how exactly do we move? And we moved in a way that was like, okay, we're going to take this tape measure and measure 6 feet apart, put all the yoga mats 6 feet apart, you know, wipe everything down, We had fruit and water for people. Houseless folks were able to get their needs met, and then we learned some things about the houseless population here in Philly that we were able to go back and like advocate for it throughout the week. And all of the places that we had the protests were intentional, right? So like the first one was the municipal building where the Rizzo statue was.
Yes.
Shout out to Philly Real Justice, the work that you all have done over the last 6 or 7 years, and maybe more, to get that statue down, and the culmination of that thing coming down in the middle of the night, baby.
Yeah,
You deserve.
But let's backtrack on that though, because when the initial uprise happened, it was defaced, and as it should have been, right?
It's been defaced a number of times,
right? But it what spoke volumes to me, and I'm a transplant to Philadelphia, but I'm also a transplant who is very much educating myself of the history of Philadelphia. But what was telling to me about the culture of Philadelphia and its government was that was the first thing next day that was clean. I mean,
it was sparkling.
It was. I mean, you would
like
never
nothing had ever happened. Like nobody was ever there.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting that happened. But yeah, so the first one was at the municipal building. The second one was at Washington Square or Congo Square, which we learned is further down in the Society Hill area, so closer to 2nd Street. It was actually a burial ground for African Americans.
Wow.
So they built a park on top, much like Central Park. They built a park on top of a burial ground. And you know, it's known that, you know, Mother Bethel isn't that far from there, so it makes sense that the black people who lived in that particular section of the city at that time would have their own burial ground. But because of the historics and gentrification and things that have happened over time, we have seen even Mother Bethel lose their burial ground that was there.
Yeah.
There's now a flat top basketball court that's out there. So you get to see how some of the places that we chose were very, very intentional.
Yes.
We were supposed to be up in Germantown.
Yeah, that it rained.
Another day, but we got rained out.
Yeah, that was the one I wanted to
and then the last one we had was on Juneteenth, and it was at Malcolm X Park, and it was the greatest thing ever.
So beautiful.
It was so lit.
Yeah.
It was so lit because we were in the park, and then there was another group in the park, and then BLM Philly came through, and they did Juneteenth. So, like, people got to, like, dance and be free and sit in the park. And, of course, we were all socially distanced. And then, like, BLM Philly fed folks. So, there were boxes of food for people. There was another group that fed older folks and had mad produce out there. But people were out there getting their needs met. And I'm like, this is the work of the Lord.
Kira, what are your own ritual practices these days? What grounds you?
Woo.
What are the things that allows you to reconnect with self, with God, with spirit, ancestors?
Food. And not just any kind of food. Like when I get in the kitchen and I make the things that I was taught to make from my aunts and my grandmothers, or, you know, any of these other amazing women, like my aunt's pot of collard greens is one thing that is particularly always grounding to me. It's been too hot to be in my kitchen, but I think of the ways in which my grandmother's taught me to make potato salad and macaroni salad and all these other very cooling things to eat during the summer, and the things that my dad have taught me, like working on a grill and grilling and things of that nature. So food is definitely one of the things that grounds me. Music is always the thing that grounds me. Come from a very musical family. Mostly everybody sings. I got a few cousins that play instruments. But yeah. What else? Hymns, of course. Movies. Really, really good movies that I grew up watching. Laughter. My mom's laughter in particular. My mom has this really, like, crazy laugh, and I'm just like, and especially after her being sick, I just always want to hear her laugh or hear her voice. So, like, talking to my mom and my grandma and my aunts and being on three-way with them. And my partner, she definitely keeps me grounded, because I be, like, out there. She be like, come back. So I'm very thankful for her and the ways in which she keeps me.
Who are your influences?
Woo!
I hear you talking about your mom, and you talk about. I love that you talk about a lot of the matriarch in your family. And
I come from a very matriarchal line.
Yeah, I see that. I
very matriarchal line.
But who are some of the influencer for you? Rather people who you read about, and they could be ancestral too, like folks who've gone on.
Yeah.
That you lean onto their teaching and get you together.
Yeah. My great grandmother Georgia on my father's side, Georgia King, she was an AME preacher. And I lean into her a lot. Believe it or not, because she used to make the grandkids have Bible study in the kitchen in the summer.
Oh yeah, she wanted.
So it was a generational thing though. Yes. So as all of us had it. Like my dad and them had it.
You going to church even if it's in this kitchen.
Right. My older cousins had it. I had it to a certain extent, but my grandmother had. She was starting to get up there. And she had a stroke, so she wasn't able to really teach us the way she wanted to. But I do remember being in her presence a lot, and it just being very calming. She was a very quiet but stern woman. She didn't yell unless she had to, and when she yelled, you knew it was time for whatever you was doing to be shut down. Okay, and then also my great aunt Myra, who passed on. I will never forget. We got into an argument one time. I always tell this story, and I'm not ashamed to say. Got into a fight one time, and she looked at me and she said, "Shakira, you bold. You bold. You're not like your other cousins who are sneaky. You ain't never gonna find out what they gonna do, but you gonna tell everybody. You gonna tell the world what you do." And I was like, and at first I was offended. But now I'm like, you right. I am bold. And I am going to tell the world exactly how I feel. My grandmother Gwendolyn, who is still living, and my maternal grandmother, she's my mom's mom. That woman is a giver. She will give you the clothes off her back. She will give you her last. Because she has this overwhelming confidence that she will be cared for, and that her needs will be met. And I'm like, how you move through the world like that? I got to know where my next meal is coming from. I got to know where this next set of checks is coming from. And of course, my mother. Although my mother still struggles with my sexuality, and is learning, which I'm very so thankful for. But I often say this, and I love it when I say it, and I say it to her often, that she gave me the best parts of her. That I look like her, and I'm very loud like her, and I'm not going to let nobody step over me like her, and we don't care if you like us or not. At first, it used to bother me, especially what my peers thought, because I always knew I was different, not just in, the sexuality, but I'm just different. Who dyes their hair blue?
Purple.
Me.
Pink.
It has been purple and pink and blonde. Who wears a big old afro whenever they feel like it? Who's always in the streets? Who decides they're gonna put their body on the front line like this?
Yeah.
Me. And it part of it became okay, if this is what you're gonna dedicate to, walk in it. Be proud of it. Don't shy away from it.
Yeah, I was reading a poem early this morning, my devotion, and sometimes I just do random things to devote, and it's not always something in the Bible, but I was reading this poem, and it was saying, don't have a half lover, and it went down to talk about don't have a half conversation, don't have a half life, don't have a half argument. If you're gonna do something, do it
all the way.
Do it to the fullness. Listen, don't even say don't even have a half death. If you're gonna die, you gotta die fully. Which I mean, going back to just some of the work of activism and protesting, when people are doing this particular type of work, they are literally giving their life to it. And so I'm always moved by that. I went to a couple of protests out in Philly during this time, and I remember at one moment I was like, yo, I could die right now. something, I mean, it was thousands upon thousands of people, like, something could literally happen to me right now, and like, and I'm thinking about the protesting, but not really thinking of myself as a protester,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, you are giving your full self to your work, and you should, like, if you're going to do something, do it to its fullness.
Yeah.
I have one more question for you, because we got to wrap up. What matters to you most?
Ooh. My people matter to me the most. I could cry right now thinking about it. The thriving, the survival, the protection, the fullness of Black people, the sanctity of Black people is what matters to me the most. Because I like to read, and I consider myself a baby student of history, because I still have a lot more to learn. But when I look at these movements that our ancestors built, and we're able to read them because we can step back and look at them now, I look at the ways in which they were fully invested, to what you just said, and that matters, and it needs to matter. It needs to be highlighted that these things matter. The work that they did, who they were to their fullness, right? Like, people love to talk about Bayard Rustin, but forget that he was gay. Like to conveniently forget that he was gay. People like to talk about Medgar Evers and how wonderful he was, but don't bring up the very violent death that he died in his front door at his house. His children had to see that, right? People love to bring up Martin Luther King, but forget, or conveniently forget, or don't study enough to know that he actually regretted segregation in the last bit of his life. Even Malcolm X, with his pivot from that radical Black Islam to this overall overarching view of like, okay, like, I still just want to focus on Black people, but Islam is more than just Black people. And if we're going to worship in this way, we need to fully understand the extent of it. So all of that matters. History matters. Black people and their history, our history, collective history matter.
Thank you so much, Shakira King.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure sitting and talk to you. Can you tell the people quickly what is up next? What are you doing? What are you getting into?
What am I not doing?
And most importantly, how can they reach you?
So you can most likely reach me on Instagram or Twitter. I'm sure my name will pop up across the screen very cutely. Also, what's next for me is I'm currently the project manager of No Name Book Club. So just a lot more planning and reading and discussion questions and things of that nature. I'm also working on an archiving project, archiving Black Philadelphia and its queer history, which is very rich, very interesting. Got a couple of interviews planned and some elders that I'm getting ready to talk to. What am I not doing? I'm always doing something, so you will find me somewhere. Somewhere you will find me, but mostly Twitter and Instagram is the best place for people to reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You watched TTYL or not, Theology Talks You Like or not, and I am sitting with Shakira King. Peace. This season of TTYL or Not is being funded by Independence Public Media Foundation and supported by Good Pitch, Doc Society, and Love Now Media. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel TTYL or Not and click on notification for updated episodes.